Mm. Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. It's setting up redirecting to YouTube. Okay. Meeting is now streaming live on. All right. Hello, everyone. Back again here with Shannon. I'm live from Arizona and here with money mindset coach and BFF Shannon. Today, we're going to be talking about the affordability trap. Shannon, what's coming up for you when you hear that?
Well, what's coming up for me initially is like, you're like, live from Arizona. And no one ever says, live from New Jersey. No one ever says that. No one ever fucking says that. Okay.
You could start a live from New Jersey
I'm
trend.
not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not acting like I'm thrilled that I'm live from New Jersey right now. Okay. Maybe if I was in a resort, yes, or something of the sort, but no, I'm not. But I'm really glad that we're talking about this, the affordability trap, because when you mentioned this topic, I was like, I had just finished watching someone on YouTube. She's a beauty influencer. I love watching beauty influencers. Like I just think it's just everything is so fabulous and glamorous, and I love it. And so this particular beauty influencer is in her 30s. And I just, I was watching her and all the stuff that she had purchased. She's beauty, she's lifestyle. And I'm like, I love all the ages, right? So this one is in her 30s, and she had mentioned that when she was in her 20s, after she finished college, she had to move back home. She said her life was a mess. It was like she couldn't get herself sorted out. She was broke. So she moved back in with her parents. She left the city that she was living in, that she went to college, and she moved back home to another state, another city. And she said that that was exactly what she needed to do. She needed to do that because she was like, I didn't have any money. I was unsettled, and I couldn't continue to pretend that I could live this lifestyle that I was living, in another city, trying to struggle to pay rent, struggle to buy food, struggle to maintain, when I could just quite simply go home and not attach all the shame that we tend to put on young adults, right? When they have to move back home for whatever reason. She said, I simply couldn't afford to live on my own. And what I loved about this, and I like honed in on this immediately, because I thought it's so fascinating that here's this person who was in her 20s and was ashamed to move back home. First of all, I want everyone to know what your parents, if your parents were able to move out on their own in their 20s, it ain't the same time, friends. It is not the same time. Like, you cannot afford to live on your own in your 20s. That's normal. It's not what we've seen over the years, over the generations, but right now, it is very difficult, especially if you're in a high cost of living area, to get your own place when you're right out of school. Like it's crazy. And I find it so just disheartening for young people to feel like, oh, I should do what my parents did. I have no expectations that my kids should follow that same roadmap, because times are not the same. The economy is not the same. What I could afford then, they most likely couldn't afford it now if I were not there to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're not ambitious. It's not because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. The economy has changed. So what is affordability? What was affordable for me in my 20s is not going to be what's affordable for them in their 20s. And it's quite simply that. Inflation is nuts. But what I found so fascinating is that here she was saying, telling people, she's like in her early 30s, I think, telling people, hey, don't feel ashamed if you have to move back home. Don't feel ashamed if you need to get the support. What I find so fascinating is that there are people, I have clients and people that I know who are in their 40s and 50s who are living on their own, have a mortgage, have cars, have children, and their parents are funding their lifestyles. Their parents are supporting them. So, yeah, they don't have the outward appearance of being dependent on their parents because they're not living in their parents' house or in their basement or what have you, but they're getting a monthly stipend from their parents, right? So they are still living this life. To the outsider looks like, oh wow, man, they're able to do this on their own, when in actuality they're either boomer parents or silent generation parent or whatever is funding their lifestyle. And I think it's just, you're creating such a disservice for folks when they think that, oh, I can't afford it, that is a reflection on me and for what I'm either not doing or should be doing, and everybody else has managed to do it. So I just think that's, it's so important that she said that, and that she also said that she's moving into a new apartment. And she had to make it very clear to the folks that were following her that she had a budget.
Hmm.
And she's like, I have a budget, folks. Like, I know you see me with all this glam and this fabulous stuff, but she's like, I too have a budget. And there's a point where she was like, you know, she didn't say what the dollar amount was, but she was like, I wasn't going to spend over X amount of dollars to live in this particular apartment. She was like, there's no way I was going to do it. She's like, I have a budget. And she was very clear that they too should have a budget. And it's just so important for people to look beyond just what they see on the exterior. Like, they were all surprised in the comments. You have a budget? You have a budget? It's like, yeah, she has a budget. Of course she has a budget. But when you see somebody who's spending on all of these things, you think that, hey, she just has unlimited funds. But what's really important, what I can see behind the curtain is, no, she's spending on the things that are important to her, what she values, and that looks like an unlimited budget to the outside world. But if you listen, she's like, yeah, I'm buying these like fabulous clothes or these, you know, vintage pieces, but I'm driving a Honda, right?
Mhm.
Like, I don't care about my
Right.
car. I'm
Right.
not out there in some luxury vehicle. So it's like, yes, you have to pay attention. That's what affordability means to her. She can afford the things that she values, and she makes it a point to focus on those things. And she doesn't focus on the things that aren't as important to her, that she doesn't care about, which allows her to have more room to spend on the things that are important to her and that she values.
Right.
So I just thought that was really interesting, like, you know, the affordability trap, because so many people will see that, see her living this glamorous life, and that's part of what she does. That's her job, but she also enjoys it, and think that, you know, the sky's the limit for her, and that she doesn't put out any barriers around herself. When in actuality, she does, and she doesn't get trapped by affordability because the things that are important is where she puts her energy, her money, her time.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's also so interesting that, you know, she said, or what you said that she said was that she was like a mess
Mm-hmm.
in her 20s. And really, I love that you said that no one in their 20s would be able to like right out of college be able to afford, you know, something, especially depending on the city, but that she's just really being human.
Yes.
Like if we were to take out the word mess or like, you know, crisis or like grief or just like, you know, any of those words and just put in human, we're supposed to be in tribes. We're supposed to be in community. We're supposed to be living with elders. It's just that in the modern society, that has been sort of like eschewed for, okay, independence. And I'm not saying that independence is wrong or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a lot of shame around like, you know, what I'm seeing with my clusties and the folks that I'm working with. It's like, you know, who is your business really affordable for?
Mm.
Because when you are devaluing your price points and lowering your price points, and maybe you're getting donations, and that, you know, again, there's balance with that, right? Depending on your business. But like, and where you are in your business, which stage. But like when you are sacrificing certain things to make your business affordable, what's actually happening is it's not affordable for you anymore. And you have to like, you know, your business is turning from an LLC to a 501c3, which is great. Listen, if you have a 501c3, I'm not talking, I mean, yeah, I'm not talking to you, but if you have an LLC and you're running your business like a 501c3, right?
That's
Then
a broken business model.
yeah, right? So you're over here. And
Yeah.
then adding to what you're saying, right? You're on the struggle bus already, and then maybe your parents or maybe your some family members are offering you financial support or other support. Like for me, I live at home with my dad, so it affords me certain lifestyle. I don't worry about the car. I don't worry about like, oh, I'm 46 and I live at home with my dad. I actually like it. Maybe that's weird. I don't know. But I love dinners with my dad and my hubby. And I love that we get to do that while he's like 82. Like, who knows what's going to happen, right? In the future.
Mhm.
Aging parents, we don't know. But I know that's not everyone's story. And I know that, right? I'm very privileged. I mean, I need to name that. I want us to be able to name that too, right? Like, not everybody can go home. But if you can, right? And you're on the struggle bus, we what we don't want for you is to like carry the shame and the guilt of society and the patriarchy of like, run your business better, like don't take help from anybody, right? And then what happens to you is that you're pushed into taking a 9 to 5 or whatever that maybe you don't want to, right? So there's
Mhm.
like a lose-lose situation. So the question that I often find myself hearing for clustees and folks I work with is like, who is your business really affordable for? And that, you know, even if you are not making the money that you want to yet, right? That is not the reason to devalue your programs or your offers
100%.
necessarily, right?
100%.
So,
It's so good that you just said that because I just learned that June is Caribbean Heritage Month.
ew.
And it has been since 2005. I don't know where I've been since 2005, but apparently I literally learned it this month that June is Caribbean Heritage Month. So, being of Caribbean descent, I was like,
Congratulations, it's your
thank
month.
you, thank you. June is such a good month in so many ways. We won't
Love
go
it.
through all the good ways now. But my birthday. But anyway, so June's Caribbean Heritage Month. And when we're talking about this affordability and going home, part of the Caribbean culture is, when you get old enough and don't leave home until you're ready to go out into the world. That means ready financially, whether it's to buy a home and settle down or whatever the case may be when you get married. You can live at home as long as you want. So part of that is like, it was always really a conflict because with the Caribbean heritage, like you can live at home, you can stay at home, you can stay home. Listen, they will let you stay at home forever. However, when you say that, and then you were talking about who are things affordable for, that same culture, particularly ones that emigrated to like Canada or the US or the UK, things that were affordable got a completely different definition. Like they were like, if something seemed too expensive, it was like dismissed immediately,
Mm,
immediately dismissed. Like someone's trying to rip you off. That's a rip off. That you don't need it. You can do something else. And I mean, part of that is like the immigrant experience, right? Like you've got to figure it out. You don't have access to funds, but you got to be so careful when you're raised in that environment to think that the entire world looks at everything the same way.
right.
So that it ends up being that situation where you're almost lowering the prices, devaluing what you're offering to make it affordable through the lens, right, of all of those folks who are like, oh, that's too expensive. Too expensive for whom? Because, like you said, it ends up impacting your life.
Right.
It ends up
Right.
impacting your life. And now, like, what was an LLC is being run like a 501(c) by default or by accident, I should say. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, who
And
does that
it's
benefit?
exactly. And it's not to say, right? It's not to say, you can't have, an entry point price point, a mid-tier price
Mm,
point, and a higher tier price point. We're not saying
right.
that, right? We're just saying don't take all your shit and like shove it down into like entry level slash negative.
Exactly. And that the tier structure that you're saying is exactly what we were talking about at the very beginning. The 20-year-old may not, should not expect to get tier one. They, come
Right.
on. You may not have amassed the funds, the resources, the money, whatever, to afford tier one. But
Right.
tier three is there and is equally as accessible for you.
Right.
It's equally as beneficial, and it'll provide you with what you need at that stage in life. And
Right.
I'm not just saying it's based on age, but like say in this particular example that we're discussing, that is exactly what you need at 20, right? And
Right.
it's like when I'm talking to people about their financial journey, sometimes what you're doing at 20 is not going to be the same as someone who's been doing it for 30 years and now they're at 50. It doesn't work that way, and nor should you expect it to.
So
And
good.
that's okay. And that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. Shall we wrap up?
Well, I do want to ask you one
Last
quick thing
thoughts?
just to
Yeah.
answer. Um,
We have notoriously can go on for like hours,
I
everybody.
know she's being really good by saying, should we wrap up? She's like, shut up, because we can keep talking forever, which is okay. All right. So whatever. Okay. But what do you think is the ultimate result of the affordability trap? If you could narrow it down to like one thing.
Yeah, it's no result, right?
Wow.
I mean, right? Like there are results that you want for your business, right? Like, 100K or, we're not, you don't have to financial goal, more clients, da, 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 da. But the affordability trap is no result for no one, everyone. There's no result for you, for your business. There's no, right? Because when you're shrinking and you're in that sort of lower, you're not really getting the folks that you want necessarily either,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
so
true.
you literally, it's not helping anybody.
That's who you're attracting to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, what's your one word?
Well, shit, you stumped me on that one. I don't even know if I have one. Like,
I'm sure you do.
no results. No, I agree. I have to agree with you because you're playing so small. Because it's your lack of confidence
Right.
that which just really impacts everything, right? But it's your lack of confidence. So you don't believe. It's really disbelief in the fact that you can create what it is that you want to create. And so when you're cheaping it out on your programs and you're offering, something for next to nothing, and then you're resentful because you're burnt out and it's difficult for people to get the results because you can barely show up because you're exhausted, because you're broke, because you're struggling, and you're transferring all that shit energy to them. Yeah, you end up with zero results. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, that's a high note.
On that note, see you next Tuesday.
Come back for more.
But yeah, let's turn it around, right? So let's turn it around, right? So like if I'm looking at Shannon and she's showing up and she's valuing herself, she's valuing her offer, she's got entry point, midpoint, top tier point, whatever. And I'm like, wow, wherever I am, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I'm interested in that. I might jump in on her low tier or entry point tier, right? Then I can really see what's possible for me in her. She's not shrinking down. She values herself, her business, her LLC, not 501(c)(3, enough to have these different tiers, and she's showing up with confidence, belief, results. I can see what's possible for me in her journey. So then I'm going to show up. I mean, and this is actually kind of like a backstory of our friendship.
Mm,
It's kind of what we do for each other,
right.
right? Like, what the fuck are you doing with your business? Oh shit. What the fuck am I doing with my business? Right? We're not saying we're perfect. We're saying, right, these are some of the things that we're learning together and how we're growing, and we're getting coached up in another container. So, but when we show up outside of the affordability trap, right, there's a lot of magic that can happen for all of us and all of us
100%.
in the space.
100%. There was a lot of learning and unlearning that we did and that we're still doing. Right? There a lot, a lot. And when it comes to what one can afford or others can afford, and how much money people have or how much money they're willing to spend, and blah, 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 you have to always remember that that's not your business. That's not your business, right? Your business is to provide the best product or service or whatever it is in for your potential clients. And not everyone's your client, but like your advice to having the different tiers will allow you to have different people who are at different stages who can all benefit.
Right. Love it. Good summary.
Yay. All right, so we're going to be back here next Tuesday. Okay,
And
next Tuesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. Perfect. I love it. All right, my friend.